Hello, everyone, and welcome to A New Direction. My name's Jay Izzo, and oh man, do we have another great show for you. Absolutely fantastic. The book we're going to be exploring today with the author is called Sportify, Beyond Business Ethics. And I found this to be a fascinating read because, I own my own business, right? And then my wife and I own a business. And so, one of the things that we constantly preach to employees is, we always be doing the right thing, right? And doing the right thing is not always easy, by the way. And because, as Jake Shannon's going to point out to us here, is that sometimes you want to do the right thing, but you can't do the right thing because certain things conflict against each other that make things a little bit more difficult. And so then you're in a dilemma of which right thing do I choose, right? Then there's this other part of this whole thing is, I'm a sports guy. I played college football. I played a little ball after, and played all sorts of sports. And I love the sports analogies. Okay, I know some of you don't, but you know what? To me, it's about competition. It's how Jake starts his book. It's about competition. And if you're not about competition in business, then get out of business, okay? Because it's just a competitive area. And if you don't want to compete, okay, then go do something else. Because to be successful in any endeavor requires some competitiveness, right? Now, I say that to you, all right, viewer, listener, right? And thanks to everybody who's joining us right now, coming on. Tell your friends, by the way, that I'm on. It's a great show, and Jake Shannon's on, and it's going to be a great show. But here's the thing, is that we get lost in this idea of sport and how it just, like, sports and business aren't relatable. They're absolutely relatable. And they're so, and when the more I read the book, the more I went, and then I had questions, which I'm going to be asking him, because I got questions because not all of it fits really evenly. I mean, it's like there's some things that I'm going, well, in today's sports world, there's some challenges here, and I've got questions for Jake about, well, I can see these challenges happening in the business world. How do we deal with that, right? And that's what this is about. So if you got questions, feel free to get in and write your questions in. We're happy to take those. Jake said he's wide open. He can answer questions on fire. He used to do his own show. So, he can do that. So it's absolutely awesome. And we're going to have a good time. So let me do this. Let me introduce you to Jake Shannon, because he's actually really cool. Okay. Jake Shannon, he operates elite high stakes intersection. He operates this elite high stakes intersection of physical dominance and complex analytical strategy. And you're going to hear that. In the world of sports and fitness, he's a living legend. He's the founder of Scientific Wrestling, the man who single-handedly revitalized the historic art of catch-can wrestling in America. He apprenticed directly under the iconic Billy Robinson, authoring the best-selling Say Uncle and ghostwriting Robinson's acclaimed memoir called Physical Chess. In 2006, he literally invented the modern fitness maceball, maceball, launching a global functional strength movement that is a staple in gyms still today. His track record in the boardroom is just as formidable. He holds a bachelor's degree from UC Boulder, master's of science in financial engineering from Golden Gate University. He's a certified chief data and AI officer, co-founder of data analytics firm Reverse Marketing Insight. Is that still true?
Yes, sir.
And has served on the advisory board of Gatemaster Technology for nearly 2 decades. If that wasn't enough, he served as chief data officer for 10X Performance Coaching Program, where he was named multi-time 10X Performance Coach of the Year, helping entrepreneurs rapidly scale their operations. He now utilizes a background in high performance coaching and data-driven systems to revolutionize corporate culture as the creator of the Sportify OS and author of the Sportify book series. I just have one of them here. And he's here tonight to rewrite our leadership playbook with his powerful book, Sportify, Beyond Business Ethics. So please welcome to the show, financial engineer, elite coach, and author, Jake Shannon. Welcome to A New Direction, brother.
Hey, thank you so much, Jay. Really, really excited to be here. I know you and I've been talking for a minute over LinkedIn. Super excited. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's just dig in chapter 1. I know it's not technically the title, but this is how I saw the titles. It's kind of the introduction, bridging the world of sports and business ethic. Competitiveness, I talked about this in the opener. Competitiveness defines today's corporate landscape. This is what you say. As a company's vie for ruthlessly for profit and market share, it's also at the core of sports. And sometimes people don't want to hear about competitiveness. So let's talk about, why competitiveness is so important to the success part, but maybe some of the differences between competitiveness in sport and competitiveness in business.
So, okay. Yeah. I mean, I love it. Like, you're getting right to the heart of it. So, the thing is this. We are, by nature, competitive. I mean, even if you don't subscribe to the theory of evolution and you're very, very religious, it goes back to Cain and Abel. Okay? So no matter how you look at it, competition's built in.
That's so good.
Right? Like, right. And obviously that's the hallmark of natural selection, right? As well. Yeah. So it doesn't matter what the perspective is. The thing that's important for us to realize is there's positive ways to harness this competitiveness and there's negative. And when I say that, I mean it in like kind of a game theory approach. Like, there's positive sum games, there's zero sum games, which is like somebody wins, somebody loses. There's negative sum where both players lose, like nuclear, like war. And then there's win-win deals. And that's really at the core, honestly, of a business in terms of an ethical business deal. So if I'm trying to, for example, sell you something, an ethical deal would be where we both walk away happy. Like, you like my glasses and I, more than your $20, and I like your $20 more my glasses, and we exchange, we both walk away happier for having done the exchange. That kind of win-win positive sum game is really at the core of what a business ought to be. But I do kind of abuse this sporting metaphor because I find that it ports over so well to business. And I find that so many people understand sports because it's something that we're trained in from early childhood. Like, I mean, you were playing football well before college, because otherwise there's no way you would have gotten into college football. So this is something that's natural and it's been well harnessed, and it's something positive, a way to communicate. I mean, I think the spirit of the modern Olympic Games, there was a big push to create it as an alternative to war, where different countries could bring their best and compete in a pacifistic or ethical manner without bombing each other into the Stone Ages or whatever. And so, this is really what I'm trying to bring to the fore, because there are a lot of unethical companies doing unethical things. And sometimes we get into these like linguistic games, these semantic, nonsensical issues where it's like, like all about subjectivity. And I think that having a sports framework makes it quite simple and objective. That, hey, we're all entering their arena. These are all the agreed upon rules. Once you understand those rules, go to town, be creative, figure out how to be the Deion Sanders, figure out how to be Muhammad Ali within the rules. Like, one of my coaches, very good friend of mine, his name's Wade Chalice, and he's the Guinness record holder for the most wins and pins in all of wrestling. And he still holds to this day the NCAA record for the most wins and the most pins. He has an award called the Chalice Award for the number one pinner in the NCAAs. Anyway, he came out with the best-selling wrestling instructional tape set, and I think it was in the 80s, maybe early 90s. And the name of it was Legal Pain. And I love that phrase because that kind of encapsulates the spirit. Like, go up to the edge of the rules. That's fine. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to push and compete and could try to really get the best out of each other and make each other tougher and better. To me, that is the heart of what we're trying to do. Now, obviously, there are some differences here. Clearly, like business is not per se physical in the same way. You don't have the exact same sort of skin in the game, like literally your skin's in the game with sports, where it's more metaphysical because it's about your balance sheet or your bank account. But otherwise, I find that the metaphor maps really, really nicely. And so what I'm trying to bring into business, for example, one of the biggest, trendiest things in ethics in business in the last 10 years was more prevalent in the prior administration, but it was very, very heavily pushed by that administration. I won't call it propaganda, but that's really what it is, regardless of which side of the fence you fall on. There was this DEI, this diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. And it's cool. I love all those words sound great to me. But, at its heart, sometimes some of these things are not competitive, or some people are saying this is not fair. I'm just trying to say, well, instead of something like DEI, and maybe they may be mutually exclusive, you could have both. I'm saying, let's bring in sportsmanship. Let's sportify the idea of business ethics. So there's cooperation, there's competition, but it's all done within a healthy framework.
I think this is where, and I'm glad you brought this up because it's where I'm going next. And this is the idea of sportsmanship in business. I think, and we're going to talk about bioethical principles as well, but the sportsmanship aspect of it, right? Fair play, respect, integrity, right? And we think about that in a sporting context, right? And then we try to think about good sportsmanship in a business context. Somehow, I don't know, and some of this is based on my experience as a coach, as a business coach, and performance coach, and also as someone who owns a company and in a couple companies. I find that sportsmanship often lacks. Is that your experience as well?
100%. But have you ever noticed, like if you look at the statistics, the best entrepreneurs and the best employees often come from a strong sports background.
Yeah.
And I think it's one because of the grit, the drive, the competitiveness, all those things that are developed through sporting type of activities. But I also think it's because of the sportsmanship. You have to learn how to lose gracefully. And sometimes people have never learned that.
Yeah.
And then they start doing some stuff that's not ethical.
Right.
And there's plenty of things that aren't ethical in sports. I mean, Tanya Harding, right? Not ethical. But we at least know what the demarcation is. The challenge here is that we're dealing with human beings. A lot of this is kind of more on the art than the science side.
Yeah.
This is also, you bring up bioethical principlism. I brought that into the original book, which you have your hands on. I've updated a bunch of it. I've kind of pulled back on that just because it's a little wonky. It's a little, like I could see all the books on your bookshelf, and you clearly are a very erudite, studied person. But your typical person, and a lot of times entrepreneurs, they're not. They're just like, man, I knew how to do plumbing, and then I hired my buddies, and now I got a $10 million plumbing company, and that's it. Okay, and they had that raw, hands-on, blue-collar, salt to the earth wisdom. And so, I wanted to make it more accessible. I like the idea because we are talking about ethics, and so I will put my nerd hat on for a second. The bioethical principlism, I find, is a very easy to grasp ethical framework. I think that a lot of people tend to put ethics a lot of times onto religion, but then that becomes its own can of worms, because
Right.
somebody could be Muslim, somebody could be agnostic, somebody be Catholic, you got all Mormon, everybody's got these different ethical systems.
Right.
And so something like how we treat people as a result of the Nuremberg Code, you know what I mean? Where it talks about the outcomes of war and unethical medical experiments. I find it extrapolates quite well as well, but because it doesn't fit with the sporting metaphor, I kind of backed away from that a little bit.
But there is an ethical aspect to sport, right? I mean, having played, you've played, I've played, right? There is an ethical part of sport, right? I mean, when you're in the game, you have ethical choices to make, right? When you're facing an opponent, right, there are ethical things. You could cheap shot somebody really quick,
right? Jack somebody's knees up, poke them in the eye.
Mean, right. And you can, I mean, do you my sport was football. So do you physically want to, really be dominant? Absolutely. Does that mean that somebody might get hurt? Yeah, that does. It happens, right? But it's not the intention. My intention is not to, damage you so that you can't play the game, right? I mean, anymore. That's not my goal, right? My goal is to hit you as hard as I can, okay? And I get that, and I'm trying to remind you not to come back my way again.
Right, exactly. You're going to cut a different way.
Right, as not a different player. But I'm not trying to go, okay, my goal is to intentionally take you out, right? So there is an ethical part of this. And listen, I've been in the middle of those piles where people were throwing punches. That's not ethical. Okay.
It's not. And this is why we actually have to have these kind of conversations, why I've written this book, why you do have to have, first of all, a rule book.
Yeah.
Second of all, you have to have refs.
Yeah.
Third, you might have to go review the tape, because maybe the ref is corrupt. Maybe the ref is blind. Maybe the ref, so we do need to set these bumpers up, right?
Right.
These guardrails.
Right. And you talk about, and I'm going to use some big words here, people. So just stay with me, even though you're going to hear some big words, right? You use words beneficence, and non-maleficence.
Two different things, by the way.
But two very different things, right? Which we'll try to explain a little bit. But one side is I'm not planning on doing any harm. The other is I want to do good, basically.
Right.
And then the other thing is, within this framework is, at the same time, I have autonomy. Anybody who's ever played a sport, when you're out there on the field, you have a certain level of autonomy. Yes, you are supposed to do certain things, but there is a certain level of autonomy because things don't always go as planned. So you have to be able to sometimes divert from the plan on the fly, right? So there has to be a certain level of autonomy. And then there is the issue of justice, right? Which you kind of are pointing to. I think that's all part of sport, right? As well as business. And and this is why I like the analogy so well, because I think when you start talking about, well, what is sportifying your company, if I can use that word. I just created my own word, sportifying. But, you talk about commit to ethical excellence, make sure you have policy development, training and development, performance metrics, leading by example, sportsmanship, and, the bioethical principlism, meritocratic culture, stakeholder engagement, ethical decision-making frameworks, transparency, and accountability. Every one of those things is sport.
Right.
That I played in, right? We're going to do things the right way. That's committed to ethical excellence, right? We have a policy of conduct, right? On and off the field, right? So
some things will get you kicked off the team that you did at the Dairy Queen.
Well, listen, I didn't, when I was playing and training in season, right? I never went to the bars, ever.
Smart.
I never went. I just never went. I never went out. I never went. Okay. But I knew guys who did, right? And the next thing you knew, they weren't playing on Saturday afternoons.
Nope.
Right? There were performance metrics, right? I had a certain level of performance I had to meet. If I wanted to play, and I wanted a letter, these were the performance metrics I had to meet, right? All of this that you're talking about is business. And it was based on a meritocracy, right? It was based on merit, not because I was 6'4", 285 at that time, right? It had nothing to do with my size. I mean, it may have gotten me in the door, but at the end of the day, if I wanted to play, I had to perform.
Dude, like we were talking before, in Nebraska, guys that size are not all that uncommon. So it is about your commitment and the decisions that you make.
No, I was a farm kid, but there's farm kids that are 6'7", 6'8", 300 pounds that can run, under a 5 flat 40.
Right.
You could have put a plow on my back and it wouldn't change my speed. Okay. So I mean, there is this thing. And I think what I want people to understand is that there is another way to do business. And I don't think we think about it in these terms. And you talk about this in this chapter, the critical role of ethics in today's business. Talk about why ethical businesses actually have the.
Oh, well, I mean, the number one reason is that all sales are built on trust. Right. So if I knew something was a scam, I don't want to buy from that company. But things have been evolving a little bit too, so now we see there's actually these ethically sourced coffee beans or whatever. And, people are like, well, what does that mean? And some people know and some don't. Right. But it just means that maybe some of the negotiating leverage was better. Or we talk, what is this whole thing with organic as applied to our food supply? That's maybe a bit of an ethical stand. Like, hey, we're not going to pump a bunch of this lymphoma causing glyphosate that has been adjudicated in courts to cause cancer.
Right.
So there are many advantages. I mean, you can look at maybe to be a little controversial, but you can look at some of the controversies that have plagued the medical system in the last 10 years due to lockdowns, due to the shots, all that stuff. Not picking a side. I'm just saying, I could go look at the stock price of Merck now versus the stock price of Merck in 2021, and they tell very different stories. Yeah. And I think it's an ethical story about the reputation of the firm.
His name is Jake Shannon. The book is entitled Sportify Beyond Business Ethics. By the way, the new book does not look like my book. Okay.
Yeah, I got a copy here.
Yeah, but he's going to flash up a copy of the new book. There it is right there. But it is really a read that I really suggest that you, and it's a 5-star review. I'm just telling you that the book is really good and it's insightful and it's going to make you think about how you're doing business. You're listening to him here on A New Direction. Hey, folks, we all know that selling a home isn't just a transaction, it's a major life transition. Whether you're buying your first place, making room for a new baby, or downsizing for retirement, can be incredibly stressful. That's why you need Linda Craft Team Realtors. For over 40 years, Linda has been helping people all over the world navigate these big life changes. Her team doesn't just sell houses. They take the stress out of the process so you can focus on your future. Don't go it alone. Let 40 years of experience work for you. Visit lindacraft.com, LINDACRAFT. Listen, they tell me coaching's supposed to sound fancy, but I got to be honest with you. I'm from the Midwest. I just want people to be great. Okay. If your business, if you're doing good, I mean, okay, maybe you're satisfied, but you shouldn't, because it should be about being great. But being good doesn't build a legacy. It never has. So what I do is I take those high performers who are already doing well, push them to the next level. Smart strategy, no fluff, and maybe a bad joke or two along the way. So listen, if you're ready to stop playing defense, start dominating, let's talk. Go to jayizzo.com. That's JAYIZSO.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend Jake Shannon. His book, Sportify Beyond Business Ethics, is the book. And
by the way, Jay, sorry, I didn't mean to mess up your live read, but you got me excited because I'm 100% sold on your philosophy. I agree 1,000%.
Yeah. Do you know the first time I ever read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, right?
Yeah.
It didn't make sense to me. And then I reread it here recently. And I went, oh, we are so comfortable being average, right?
Yeah.
And I think about this in terms of this book. And I'll tell you, I'm going to make the connection between Jim Collins' Good to Great and Sportify here, because they're in the same company, okay, in terms of books. Here's why. Do you want to win a Super Bowl, or do you want to just be a team that's better one game over 500? Right? I live in Raleigh, North Carolina. We had the Carolina Hurricanes for 8 straight years have made the playoffs. They never could get over the hump of getting into the Stanley Cup. They finally, Rod Brindamore, friend of mine, friend of the show, Rod Brindamore, Coach Brindamore, believed in what he said and said, you know what, we're going to get there, we're going to get there, we're going to get there and get there. And the 8 seasons he's been the head coach, they've always made the playoffs. This year they finally won. Because you know why? Getting to the playoffs wasn't good enough, right? And he wanted to do it ethically, right? And he wanted to do it competitively, but he had to have the autonomy to want to do it in the way that he felt was a winning hockey team, right? This is what Sportify is about, I think, to me, is you play the game the right way. You do your business the right way. You correct me if I'm wrong here. You play the game the right way. You do it competitively, and you practice like you play great. And that has to be a daily thing. And I think that's what you pull out of this book, right? Is that it's not enough to talk about it. You have to, every day is part of this, competitive, ethical part of business, right? It's an everyday thing. It's not.
So you nail it, because, so the Sportify series, there's actually 4 books in the series, right? So the first book was this idea of beyond business gamification. That's really what got me inspired by the whole concept, because the idea of gamification is very, very common, especially in software companies, but you see it everywhere. Leaderboards on a business showing who's the best sales guys, badges when you are platinum elite for Marriott rewards or for your credit card or whatever. So there's gamification, getting points at your gas card, whatever. They're trying to gamify engagement. And as I was studying this, I went real deep down the rabbit hole there, because I have one of my companies I own is a software company. So I'm trying to figure this out. And meanwhile, I'm doing a lot of business coaching. And then I'm also thinking deeply about this issue. And I'm like, you know what? I've never seen anybody riot over a game like Monopoly. But I have seen people riot over soccer games, rugby games, football games, basketball games, hockey games. And I'm like, this solves a major problem, because the Gallup organization, the people that do all the crazy polls and stuff, I love that group because I'm a data guy. And they have a book called It's the Manager. And the premise of the book, I just love it. And it was this combination, this heady mix of me looking at gamification, me reading some of this data from Gallup, me being engaged with business coaching, and then having a strong athletic coaching connection. And I kind of started putting all this together. And one of the things Gallup determined was that employee engagement is at record lows, and it keeps dropping every year. It went down another percentage point.
Yep, it did.
It's at 20% now. And what that means is if you're an employer, you're paying $1 in wages, but getting 20 cents back in labor.
Right.
The people are not engaged. Maybe we could blame it on cell phones. We could blame it on the younger generation being soft, whatever. And it got me thinking about what needs to happen for these clients of mine that I'm coaching. What do we need to do to really change the organization? What do we need to do here? Not just the executives, but the whole thing. And I was like, we need to really take charge of the culture. And we need to, again, get people engaged. People are more engaged with their football team and they don't get paid by them.
Right.
Like they got the gear on, they're out in the freezing cold outside cheering it on, like fully engaged, turning over cars, lighting things on fire, going to jail.
Right.
What if, now obviously that's unethical, but my point is, what if we could get people engaged with the sport of their own businesses, whether you're an employee or an employer? And that kind of inspired the whole milieu. So I started talking about the way that you move beyond gamification in business, which is very big and trendy, is by adding coaching like yourself. Because that's really the difference between a sport and a game, right? Like bowling is a game.
Right.
But a sport, what is that? You need that coach who's going to crawl up your you-know-what and push you to your full human potential when things get hard, because this is hard. And this is the same with business.
Well, okay. So, we're going to move down this trail a little bit about why coaching is so important, right? And I'm not saying this because I'm a coach, and you're not saying it either. It's just that I know the benefit of coaching as an athlete and then as a business person, because I have coaches, right? So I have 3 different coaches I have access to, right? To do different things for me in my business. And I need coaches with different styles who can help me navigate the details, right? I have to have coaches who can help me navigate how my personal life is infecting my business, right? What are my mindsets that I'm a mindset guy, but that doesn't mean I don't need work on my mindset, because I certainly do.
A cardiologist doesn't put in his own stents.
No, he doesn't. He doesn't, right? So I've never understood, if you're going to be elite, right? Whether you're an athlete or a business person, how are you doing this without a coach? And by the way, and let me just say this about coaching, because I think our styles are pretty similar when it comes to businesses. The thing is about a coach is, sometimes I'm a therapist, right? But sometimes I have to grab you by the face mask and just say, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? And what are we going to, and then I'm going to give you some things that you need to work on to improve it.
Yeah, you bring up a very interesting point, and I know I see like the DSM-4 and all this behind it stuff, and this is a very important point in my opinion. This is just my opinion, but I think this is a point worth arguing, and it's this: a therapist and a coach are orientedly completely different with regards to time.
Yes.
The coach is forward-looking, the therapist is backward-looking. That's the difference that I see. If I were to make it like a stupid, real general remark, it's very important, because I'm not a therapist. I have no interest. I'm just going to be real. I had a tough life. You probably had a tough life. Everybody's had a tough life. I get it. Some people had it worse than others. I understand that. But no amount of rumination and thinking about it's going to, I can know the past, but I can't change it. I don't know the future, but I can change that. And that's all I'm focused on. All I'm focused on is, what is the target? What is the goal? That's it.
Yeah. The only thing,
as a coach.
Yeah. And the only thing I would say from my perspective, because, my master's doctorate is in psychology.
Yeah,
so,
you've got a strong psychology.
So my only thing is that sometimes I could see the hangups that you have right now were a result of stuff that you're still holding on to.
Yeah. See me? I'm like, go see Jay.
Right. And
when you're ready to do the reps and just grind and be show, I'm here for that. Right.
And so I do find that sometimes I have to go back occasionally to go forward. Now, some clients I have, they're in a pretty good place. They're just not executing.
Yeah.
Right. They're not doing the execution. Right. They kind of know what to do, but they're not doing it. Now I got to remove those impediments out of your way so that you can do that, because you don't even know what the impediments are. But because you and I have a drone's eye view, we can go,
Yeah,
oh,
right, exactly.
That's what's blocking it, right? Because
we've got distance.
right, and we have an unbiased view. Right? That's the thing. That's the thing that I think is so important in this book, is that the benefit of the coach, and I wrote this in the notes, because you talk about all the benefits of coaching, but I will add to that and say the one thing that we have is that you are in the forest amongst the trees and you're not sure your way out. You actually can look down at it and go, oh, well, the exit's over here.
That's the exact reason why the sport metaphor is so great, right?
Yes, right.
Like I'm not the quarterback.
right.
I'm not even on the field. I mean, I'm in the but like I'm on the sidelines.
Right.
But that's an advantage.
It's a huge advantage.
Because I'm seeing stuff you're not seeing, because you got so many distractions, so many things coming. And I'm like, good, okay, I'm old, I'm beat up, I'm glad you're doing that right now. But I'm removed, taking my experience that I built, and then I'm seeing it exactly like you said. Like I've got a broader view of the picture.
Well, how many times have you seen? I watched a lot more UFL this year. I watched a lot of it, but I really watched it closely this year. And I saw, these coaches, just get on the quarterback, and then they sit down on the bench and they're looking at the iPad or Microsoft Surface tablet or whatever they're using now, and they're looking at stuff that they went, oh. And when you look at what they're looking at it from an above view.
Yeah, dude, wild. The technology now.
Right? So they're looking at it from an above view and go, oh, I should have thrown to that guy. Right? Why did I miss that guy? Because that guy was wide open. And instead, why did I lock in here? And everybody knew I was going to throw there. And that's why I got intercepted. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I think this is the thing that happens. And this is why I think the whole analogy of sport works in here. And I want to get back to the Sportify advantage about overcoming challenges here real quick. You talk about really 5 things that the Sportify has an advantage over overcoming challenges. You talk about reputational boost, which we kind of talked about a little bit. But then there's top talent acquisition. There's investor interest. There's risk mitigation. And then there's long-term resilience. Let's dig into that a little bit. The reputational boost, I think we all get, right? If you're ethical and you're doing the right things and you're doing it right, you boost your reputation. It's trust, as you talked about earlier. We get that. Now let's talk about top talent acquisition, because I see it from a sport standpoint, right, of it. But you explain why that's an advantage with acquiring the best talent.
Well, I mean, so I will start with the football metaphor. I know that I'm beating these the metaphor, but it just is so apt and so flexible, and there's just so much that it really does help to elucidate and facilitate communication about these concepts. So I'm in Denver, right, and the CU Buffs. By the way, highest paid state employee in every state except for like 2. Is the university football coach.
Right. Yeah, no doubt.
Why? Because it generates money.
Yeah.
The business of university, the highest paid person is the coach. So in the perfect case here is Deion Sanders.
Right.
The CU Buffs, I can't remember the exact numbers because it was a number of years ago, but like it was like 1-11. Or, I mean, it was just like
awful.
It was like really bad. Like, how are you? You almost have to be intentionally bad to get that bad. And this is a legacy. We had McCartney era. We had like some strong teams and some strong eras. Trust me, I hear it plenty. Not as good as the Huskers, but still, we had some strong eras.
Yeah.
And what did Deion Sanders do? He came in. He himself, a top talent, not cheap, came in And the first thing he did was a roster autopsy. He basically put everybody in the transfer portal.
Right.
And that season, it went from 111 to like 13-2 or something like that. Like, it was just like insane, the turnaround. So the attracting of top talent is crucial, because, you know, the sad thing is the number is staggering. I don't have the exact number, but it is like over 90%, and it is closer to like 99% than 90% of small businesses only have one employee.
Yeah, it's huge. Huge number, right? Yeah.
But that's the bottleneck, because the entrepreneur doesn't know how to properly build a team, how to lead a team, and how to get performance. I have never, ever, I would argue anybody could do this social experiment. Go talk to a room full of kids and say, hey kids, how many of you want to be managed when you grow up? Not a single kid's going to raise their hand. Not a single one. But every kid in that classroom, no matter what the age group, they want to do a job where they were coached. Professional athlete, professional actor, professional musician, something that required, and that difference is important. This is what Gallup was getting to in their data, is that 70% of the variance in the performance of a company has to do with the management. A large, like, I think it's like 2/3 of people that leave a company leave because of the manager.
The person that they report to.
What's the vibe check? What's the vibe, just roughly speaking, between a manager and a coach? And the coach, actually, you said it, cares about the personal and professional development of the team member. They want them to win. They want them to be excellent. A manager doesn't want that.
No.
So these shifts, even though they're words and metaphors, I feel they're absolutely crucial, important to actually implement and take seriously and repeat ad nauseum. And that's really what I'm trying to do with this whole Sportify operating system, frankly.
His name is Jake Shannon. Book is called Sportify Beyond Business Ethics. Fun book. It's good. Like I said, it makes you think. I mean, we're jumping around here, but we're thinking. Trust me, we're thinking as we're doing this show. You're listening to here on A New Direction. Hey, if you're planning a move, you have to check out lindacraft.com. Honestly, it is so much more than just home listings. Every website has that. But she also understands that moving impacts your whole family, including your kids and your pets. That's why her website features exclusive advice from a child psychologist on how to help kids adjust to a move, and even tips from a veterinarian on how to move with pets. It is a complete emotional resource center for your family, and that is so important if you're moving. So see the difference for yourself. Log on today. Go to lindacraft.com. That's LINDACRAFT.com. You know what? I grew up in the Midwest. And out there, we do not like spinning our tires. And just going to tell you that. So if you're a leader feeling stuck right now, you know, like your tires are spinning, let's skip the 400-page textbook and let's get right to the point. I combine high-level executive psychology with plain old common sense to turn frustrated leaders into absolute winners. You don't need corporate jargon. You need traction. So let's get you winning. Head on over to jayizzo.com and let's get to work. It's JAYIZSO.com. And we're back here on A New Direction with my friend, Jake Shannon. I know I call him my friend. We really just met, but I like him, and he's a good dude, and I think we could be friends, and I think we could hang out and be just fine. Whether he likes that or not, don't care, honestly. He's my friend if he wants to.
Just not during a CU Nebraska game.
The book's called Sportify Beyond Business Ethics. I want to talk about something here, and that you jump on something that you said. You know, the Gallup polls have showed about, I think it's about 66, 67% of the reason why people exit the company is because the person that report to the direct managers. And you made the point of saying that, you know, they're really not coaches because they're not forward thinking. They're not future thinking. And oftentimes I believe this is because they're just trying to protect their own job. So they live in what I call a preservation mindset, not an opportunity mindset. So rather than, you know, looking at what's the opportunity that I have in growing this person, it becomes more of, I just don't want to lose something, right? So it's this preservation mindset type thing. And coupled with that, then comes this issue of where I think, and you talk about this, accountability. And this is where I think we get it wrong, because I think managers see accountability as a punishment of blame, right? And I don't think that really fits into what you're saying here when we sportify accountability.
Why everybody hates managers.
Right.
Because it's like, who wants that, man? I don't want that vibe.
Right.
I already know I'm an idiot. I know I'm going to make mistakes, right? Like, I don't need extra blame. What I need is accountability. And you're right. There's a difference. Right. And blame and accountability are totally different. A coach would say, okay, you can only do 8 push-ups. I'm not leaving until you can do 20.
Right.
And you're doing that because you care, because you actually want me to be able to do it. This is where the shift has to happen, is that the people, there's so many problems with business. I mean, this is why coaches exist. I mean, you're talking about accountability. I think there's also this other thing that's important. Managers, they do need to be forward looking, but I think that they need to actually be engaged with the people that they are managing and really trying to understand, like, how many people out there know what the personal or the long-term financial goals are of their employees, because their employees' financial problems are really their problem as a manager and the company's problem.
Right.
So why not have a meeting and, like a coach, say, what is it you want to get out of this gig? What are we doing here? Clearly, you don't care about McDonald's hamburgers. It's okay. But it's a means to an end. How many people have been able to use sport to elevate themselves from a poverty or a blue collar status into legit wealth? These are things that are like so parallel. It's crazy. It's almost wild that nobody really makes this or abuses this metaphor as much as me. And it's what I'm hoping to change.
Right.
Because I think that, like, if we can really get people to connect with these ideas, people will be as engaged and excited and have a sense of purpose in their life, because most of our life is spent at work or asleep, right? So wouldn't it be great to be as connected to my job and the outcomes and winning and my own personal development, my own winning at my job, as I am some random game that I happen to root for because I happen to be born here? Like, I'm not actually on the game. I'm not actually playing the game. I have no connection to the outcome. But in my job, I do.
Right.
And I believe that the shift from a manager to coach could solve a lot of that in terms of just well-being with people.
I totally agree. And you lead into something here that I think is important, is you cannot ignore the personal aspects of the employee if you're a man.
Same with you. If you're a coach at football, I got to know all the weird, funky stuff. I got to know if my kid, whoever's I'm coaching is into Pokemon, because I might need to use some stupid Pokemon reference, even if they make fun of me, to get them to execute.
Well, yeah, but it's also like, things happen in life that affect us. Somebody close to you dies. You need to know how that's going to affect your player or your employee.
The performance, yeah.
From a performance standpoint, right? Because it's impossible for any of us to just kind of compartmentalize things that are happening in our personal life. If you're married and you're having a problem right now with your wife or your husband, right? And you go to work, well, that's going to affect your work. We can't ignore. This is why I said there's no business problems. There's just personal problems that infect your business, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's my premise that I operate from. And because I know that whatever's happening personally, and I've worked with CEOs of corporations that are going through divorces, and you know what? It's affected the way they lead. It clearly has. They don't think it has, but it has, right? So we can't ignore that.
Those people with these personal problems we're as dedicated as some of the athletes that we've seen, like yourself, for example, that didn't go out to bars on purpose because they were obsessed with winning in their particular endeavor.
Right.
A lot of the, but I mean, it's crazy to me. And,
Yeah.
and when you become kind of like you're talking about, like, so what's interesting about psychology is that it deals with norms, right? Statistical. I have a master's in math, so I deal with statistics a lot. And so a lot of it has to do with the bell-shaped curve and what is normal or average.
Right.
But average, like you were alluding to earlier, doesn't cut it, dude. But frankly, as a coach, whether I'm a business coach or sports coach, acting coach, I have no interest in the hump, in the middle, in the norm. I have interest in one tail.
Right.
The winner's tail.
Right.
The side of the curve where the winners are. Because there's the loser's tail, and then there's everybody who's average. I'm trying to get this performance out of these people and just make them out of control.
Right. Well, the thing is just I taught stats in college, so I want to be a standard deviation or two away from the middle.
Or at least maybe what we can do is have some kurtosis, like flatten the hump and lift up the tail so there's more people in the tails.
Right. Which I think is possible.
Or skew it towards the winner's tail.
We've done an hour already. It's gone really, really fast. I don't know if it has for you, but for me, it's gone really fast because I could talk to you all day about this.
I'm nerding out, so 100%.
It's all good, man. I am too. I'm nerding out. But this has been fun, and I've really enjoyed it. You're going to have to get me some more the new books.
I'll send you the updated. I'll send you the whole set.
Yeah, and then let's do this again because I want to talk and dig more into this because sportifying a corporate culture, which we didn't get into, but I think people could hear that we're giving you little things about think of it that way. Pick your favorite team, pick your favorite sport, and take a look at what they do. And then look at the ones who are really successful. Who are the champions? What did they do different, right? I think that's really the key that you bring out is who are the champions? Why were they different? And then take a look at the people who, the sport, the teams who were successful repeatedly over and over and over and over again. Why were they always champions, right? I think that's the other thing that comes out of this book for me. Because I think when we look at that, right? Because who doesn't want to raise the cup? Who doesn't want to raise the Super Bowl trophy? Who doesn't want to raise the World Series?
There's nothing better than winning. There's nothing better than winning.
Right. And if you're in business, that should be an objective.
Not only that, dude, not only are you improving your life, generational wealth for your family, you're putting food on the table for your staff, you're putting Christmas presents under the table for their kids. Like, this is how we harness these natural human drives into a really positive, productive manner that feeds our soul,
Tell people how they get a hold of you, Jake.
Yeah, so probably the easiest way, you can go to either you could type in sportify.ai. That'll take you to the website, or the other way there is just number one coaching, which is like, I know that might be backwards, or at least it is for me, but NO, the letter O, and then the numeral 1, and then coaching.com. And that'll get you right to me.
Okay, that's awesome. Stay with me, Jake, as I close the show, please. Hey, folks, this is the show. I say to you every week, you're in control of three things: your attitude, your effort, your resiliency. The fact of the matter is life doesn't always give us what we want. And sometimes we find ourselves in circumstances we didn't choose. But you know what you are in control of? First is your attitude. It's not always easy to do it, but you can choose a positive attitude regardless of what the circumstances are. So take control of that. Second is your effort, and that's tied to excellence, right? We don't always have the same amount of energy in the tank on any ever given day, but what you do have, will you be excellent with it? That's tied to your effort. And finally, your resiliency. We all get punched in the gut, we get punched in the teeth and get knocked down. It's up to you to get back up again. Why? Because you're worth it. We want you on the team. I'll be back next week with another great guest, another great book. It's going to be another great show. You had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you for doing that. Tell your friends. Give us a 5-star positive review wherever you're listening to the show. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube. I appreciate that as well. As I say to you all over the world, right, I'm grateful for you. And I say this, ciao, everybody.